My brother called me a failure at 6:17 on Thanksgiving, and for about 3 full seconds, all I could hear was the hum of my mother's refrigerator. Not laughter, not forks on plates, not football from the living room. Just that old fridge with the loose fan belt making its tired little rattle from the kitchen, like the house itself had gone stiff. Aaron was halfway through a glass of Pinot when he said it. He didn't even raise his voice. That was the part that made it worse. He said it the way some people mention the weather. Easy, casual, like it had been obvious for years and he was just finally tired of pretending otherwise. "Well," he said, smiling at our aunt across the table, "Luke always was the guy most likely to stay exactly where he started." A couple people gave those small, nervous smiles families use when they're hoping a comment dies on its own. I looked down at my plate, figured he'd stop there, figured he'd let it hang and move on. He didn't. "I mean, come on," he said, turning toward me now. 34, still in the same town, same routines, same excuses. At some point, you gotta call it what it is. Some people build a life. Some people just hide in one. Then he took another sip, like he'd said something honest and useful. I wish I could tell you I snapped back with something clean and devastating. I didn't. I just sat there with a mouthful of dry turkey and felt every eye at that table touch me and slide away. And the worst part is, if you didn't know us, you probably would have believed him. Aaron was the kind of man people understood in under 10 seconds. He had the polished haircut, the expensive watch, the white smile that looked permanent. He lived outside Charlotte in a neighborhood with stone mailboxes and HOA rules. He worked in medical sales and always described his life in numbers: quarterly targets, bonus brackets, square footage, school tuition, miles flown, credit card points. He knew how to enter a room and make even his exhaustion sound expensive. I was Luke. I lived 20 minutes from my mother in Pickerington, Ohio, in a duplex with a cracked patio and a grill I forgot to cover every winter. I worked for the local school district as a maintenance supervisor. I spent most of my days fixing boilers, unjamming doors, replacing ceiling tiles, unclogging things kids should never have put anything into. My truck was 11 years old. My jeans always had a little paint on them, no matter how many pairs I bought. I was single, not recently divorced, not tragically widowed, just single, which in certain families can start to feel like a character flaw by your mid-30s. So on paper, sure, Aaron was the success and I was the cautionary tale. That was the family arrangement, whether anyone said it out loud or not. It had been that way since we were kids. Aaron was the one teachers loved before he even opened his mouth. He was class president, varsity baseball, honor roll, homecoming court without trying. He could forget a science project and still somehow talk his way into partial credit. He knew how to charm adults and intimidate kids. And by the time we were both old enough to notice what was happening, he'd already become the person the rest of us were being measured against. I was quieter. Not miserable, not secretly brilliant, just quieter. I liked routines. I liked engines and wires and knowing how things fit together. When our dad's lawnmower died, Aaron joked about buying a new one. I took the carburetor apart on the garage floor and got it running again. That was kind of our whole relationship in miniature. He liked the big answer. I liked the real one. I didn't hate him growing up. That would have been easier. Mostly, I just spent a lot of years standing next to him while people explained the difference between us like it was useful information. Luke's the steady one. Aaron's the ambitious one. Luke likes simple things. Aaron's going places. What nobody ever says is that once a family gives everybody their role, they start protecting it, even when life changes, even when the facts do. Our dad got sick 3 years before this Thanksgiving. Pancreatic cancer. Fast, ugly, efficient. By the time we had a name for it, it already felt like the clock in the room had started ticking louder. Aaron flew in for the diagnosis and the surgery, then flew back out to work because, in his words, I can't just disappear right now. I believed him at the time. Maybe part of me still does. Life is complicated when you've got a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a job that can replace you before your airport Uber arrives. But after that, it was mostly me. I drove Dad to appointments. I learned how to change dressings and manage his pills. I sat with him during those strange late-night hours when pain and morphine and fear make a man talk differently. I handled the insurance calls because Mom kept crying every time she heard recorded hold music. I cleaned out the downstairs bathroom after he got too weak to make it to the toilet in time. I listened when he wanted to talk. I listened when he didn't, Aaron called. He sent money once or twice. He ordered meals for the house from 3 states away. He posted one vague Facebook tribute after Dad died and got 300 comments about what a good son he was. I said thank you for the meals. That should tell you enough about me. By the time the Thanksgiving dinner happened, Dad had been gone almost 2 years. Mom still lived in the same ranch house we grew up in, the one with the narrow galley kitchen and the hardwood floors Dad had promised to refinish every summer for 20 years. Holidays had gotten smaller since he died, quieter. Our Aunt Elaine still came in from Reynoldsburg with 2 pies she wanted complimented. Our cousin Brett still showed up late, smelling like cologne and traffic. But the center of the room was gone, and everybody knew it. That morning, I got to Mom's house around 9 to help with the turkey. Aaron and his family weren't due in until noon from Columbus Airport, because they'd flown in from Charlotte on the first flight out. Mom was already working when I walked in, wearing the same faded red sweater she'd had since I was in high school. The house smelled like celery, butter, coffee, and that faint, sweet dust smell that comes out when heat first kicks on for the winter. "You're early," she said, even though I always got there early. "You say that every year." "Because every year I think maybe this'll be the one where you let me do something by myself." I leaned over and kissed her cheek. "Not with that wrist." She made a face at me and went back to chopping onions with one good hand. Mom had fallen on the ice the previous February and never quite gotten full strength back in her right wrist. She hated help in the deeply Midwestern way, where accepting it feels like moral failure. So I helped without making it a thing. I lifted the roasting pan, took the folding chairs from the basement, found the gravy boat she'd hidden from herself in the hall closet, and put the card table up in the den for the kids. Around 10:30, while I was looking for foil in the drawer by the oven, I saw an envelope half hidden under a stack of grocery coupons on the counter. White window envelope, heavy paper, a bank logo in the corner. I wouldn't have paid attention, except Mom moved too fast when I glanced at it. "That's junk," she said. "Leave that." I looked at her. I didn't say anything. "I know, I'm just saying." Then she took the envelope and slid it under a ceramic pie plate in the cabinet, like it had offended her. That was the first moment all day I felt that little shift in the floorboards. The one you feel in families before anybody admits something is wrong. Aaron and Melissa got there just after noon, with the kids half asleep and airport cranky. The front door opened, cold air rushed in, and suddenly the house got louder in the old familiar way. My niece Sophie, who was 10, ran straight to the den to see if Mom had put out the box of puzzles. My nephew Ben, 7, came in wearing giant headphones around his neck and carrying a tablet like it was a life support device. Aaron came in last, rolling a suitcase with one hand and holding a bakery box in the other. "Happy Thanksgiving, Ohio," he said. He was wearing a camel coat indoors, dark jeans, and those spotless white sneakers that always make me wonder how much effort a man spends avoiding normal ground. He hugged Mom with one arm, gave me a quick shoulder bump, and handed over the bakery box like he was making a presentation. "Bourbon pecan from Amelie's," he said. "Got it near the airport. You're welcome." Mom smiled too big. "That's nice, honey." Melissa hugged me longer than usual. She felt tired. That sounds vague, but I don't know how else to say it. Tired has a physical weight to it, and she carried it into the house. She used to be lively, fast-talking, always the one smoothing Aaron out when he got too sharp. That day, she looked pretty and expensive and worn thin all at once. Perfect sweater, gold hoops, under-eye concealer doing the best it could. "You okay?" I asked quietly while Aaron was talking to Mom. She gave me a smile so brief it almost wasn't one. "Long morning." That was all she said. Aaron, meanwhile, was in full performance mode by 1 o'clock. He was telling Aunt Elaine about airport lounges. He was telling Brett about interest rates in Charlotte. He was telling my mother not to worry about the wine because he'd brought something drinkable. He kept checking his phone between stories, flipping it face down on the counter every time somebody drifted too close. Twice he stepped out to the garage to take a work call, which struck me as weird on Thanksgiving, but not impossible. People with jobs like his like to remind the rest of us that business never really stopped. Still, there was something too rehearsed about him. He laughed a little too hard at his own jokes. He complimented his kids in that specific proud dad tone that sounds more like branding than affection. He called Melissa babe every single time he needed something from her. He had the look of a man trying very hard to keep all the plates spinning, and Melissa wasn't helping him. Usually, she played along with his energy. This time, she kept going quiet in the middle of conversations and staring at her phone like she was waiting for test results. At one point, while the turkey rested and football played in the living room, I went into the kitchen for ice and found her standing alone by the sink. "You sure you're okay?" I asked again. She looked toward the doorway before answering. "Did your mom seem strange to you?" I shrugged. "More stressed than usual." Melissa pressed her lips together. "Aaron told me she's been overwhelmed lately." "With what?" "I don't know." She gave a small laugh that had no humor in it. "That's kind of the theme this month." Before I could ask what that meant, Aaron walked in, bright and smiling, like he'd heard his cue. "There you two are," he said. "Luke, you still on turkey duty? Don't dry it out, man. Mom's had enough disappointment." He said it lightly, but his eyes didn't match the joke. I should have seen then that he was already spoiling for a target. I just didn't know why. Dinner got pushed to almost 6 because Ben spilled apple juice on the kids' table, and Sophie had a meltdown over the wrong puzzle piece, and Mom burned the first batch of rolls while trying to answer the landline. The older I get, the more I think most family disasters arrive disguised as little scheduling problems. By the time we all finally sat down, everybody was tired enough to be honest or cruel. And sometimes there's not much difference. We squeezed 10 people around a table built for 8. Mom at one end, Aunt Elaine at the other. Aaron on Mom's right, me on her left. Melissa beside Aaron, silent. The kids in the den with their paper plates and a Christmas movie. The good silverware came out, even though nobody under 60 cared. Dad's chair stayed empty the way it always did now, not intentionally, just because none of us could quite make ourselves use it. We made it through grace. We made it through the first round of passing dishes. We even made it through Aunt Elaine asking Sophie if she had a little boyfriend yet, which Melissa shut down with one glance sharp enough to cut glass. Then Brett looked at me and asked the kind of harmless holiday question that can ruin an evening if the wrong person answers it. "So, Luke, still at the schools?" "Yeah," I said. "Moved up this summer, actually." I've got all 6 elementary buildings now, not just the east side. That's good, Brett said. It is good, Mom added quickly. He works very hard. I smiled a little, ready to let it pass. But Aaron leaned back in his chair and laughed through his nose. All 6 elementary schools, he said. Big time. Nobody answered. He sliced into his turkey with slow, careful movements. I'm sorry, I'm not making fun of the job. Work is work. I'm just saying, sometimes this family acts like Luke got called to the moon because he got another set of keys. Aaron? Melissa said quietly. What? He looked around the table like he was the only honest person there. I'm serious. Everybody tiptoes around it, but come on. He's comfortable. That's the difference. He's always been comfortable. I felt my ears get hot. I'm fine, Aaron. That's exactly it, he said, pointing his fork at me. Fine. You've made a whole identity out of being fine. No risk, no ambition, no actual plan. Just hanging around Mom's house, fixing things, being the reliable local son so everybody pats your head for it. Aaron, Mom said again, this time sharper. But once he started, I think he needed the momentum. You want to know the truth? He said, looking at the table instead of me now. Half the people who say they value simple lives are just scared they can't handle bigger ones. There are moments when humiliation is so clean, it almost becomes physical. I could feel exactly where it landed in my body. Base of my throat, center of my chest, down into my stomach. I could feel Aunt Elaine stop chewing. I could feel Brett study his mashed potatoes. I could feel Melissa shut her eyes for 1 second, like she'd seen this scene coming from miles away. What I remember most is the sound of Mom setting down her fork. It wasn't loud, but it was final. At least Luke didn't ask me to borrow against this house, she said. Nobody moved. Aaron's face changed so fast it was almost hard to process. Not guilt first. Fear. Melissa turned toward him. What did she just say? Mom looked like she wished the sentence back the second it left her mouth. But it was too late. Once the truth gets air, it doesn't go politely back into the wall. Mom, Aaron said, and there was a warning in it now. Not here. Melissa stared at him. Borrow against the house for what? No one answered. I looked at Mom. She was pale. Her fingers were shaking against the tablecloth. Aunt Elaine whispered, "Oh, Lord," under her breath. Melissa's voice got tighter. Aaron? He put down his napkin. It's not what it sounds like. That is the sentence people use when it is exactly what it sounds like. Mom looked at me then, and I understood 2 things at the same time. First, that this had been going on longer than I knew, and second, that she had hoped with everything in her that it would survive dinner. How much? Melissa asked. Aaron let out a breath. Can we please not do this at the table? How much? She repeated. Mom answered before he could. 62. Melissa actually blinked like the number hadn't fit inside her head on the first try. $62,000? It was supposed to be temporary, Aaron said quickly. I told her that. You told me what? Melissa said. You told me your bonus was delayed. You told me cash was tied up. You said we were waiting on a payout. What is she talking about? The room had that strange, stretched feeling disasters create, where every tiny detail becomes too sharp. I remember the steam coming off the green beans. I remember Ben laughing in the den at some cartoon voice on TV. I remember Aaron's wedding ring tapping once against his water glass. He looked at Mom like he still thought he could manage this. I was going to fix it. When? I said before I meant to. He turned to me with immediate anger, grateful for a target. "Stay out of it." "No," Melissa said, and that one word shut the room down. She wasn't loud. She was done. "No, he doesn't stay out of it if your mother put her house up for whatever this is. Start talking." Aaron rubbed both hands over his face. For the first time all day, he looked older than me. "I lost the job in July," he said. Nobody spoke. He kept going, faster now, like speed could soften it. "It was a restructuring, territory changes. They made it sound like performance, but it was broader than that. I got some severance, not a lot. I thought I'd land somewhere quick. I didn't want to panic anybody." Melissa stared at him. "You left the house every morning. I was networking. You put on suits. I had meetings. At Starbucks," she said, and I realized then she'd known pieces of this already, just not the whole thing. Aaron's jaw tightened. "Some of them, yeah." Mom spoke in a small voice. "He said it was just until the new position came through." Melissa looked at her, then back at him. "And the 62,000? Aaron didn't answer right away. Melissa's voice broke, not into screaming, not into theatrics, just into that low, cracked sound people make when betrayal becomes specific. "Aaron." "We were behind," he said. "On what?" He laughed once, but there was no humor in it at all. "Everything, okay? The mortgage, Sophie's tuition, the Amex, the car, summer camp, the kitchen remodel, flights. It added up faster than I thought." I leaned back in my chair and just stared at him. Not because I was shocked he had money problems. A lot of people do. What shocked me was hearing my brother, the human billboard for control, admit that his whole beautiful life was being held together with debt and panic and my mother's house. Melissa whispered, "You borrowed against your mother's house?" "It was a home equity line," he said too quickly. "I made the first payments." Mom looked down at her plate. My stomach dropped. "You made her make the payments?" "I did not make her do anything," Aaron snapped. "She helped because you said it was temporary," I said. "Luke," Mom said weakly. But I couldn't stop now. Not after being called a failure by a man using our mother like a bridge loan. Melissa pushed back from the table. "How long have you known?" she asked Mom. "Since August," Mom said. "And you didn't tell me?" Mom's eyes filled immediately. "He begged me not to. He said it would destroy things before he had a chance to fix it." Melissa laughed in disbelief. "Destroy things? Aaron, what exactly do you think this is?" The den had gone quiet. I turned and saw Sophie standing in the doorway with Ben half behind her. Kids always know before adults admit they know. Melissa saw them too and stood up fast. "Back in the den," she said softly. "Now." Sophie didn't move. "Is Dad in trouble?" Aaron stood. "Honey, no. Sit down. Everything's fine." Even Ben looked unconvinced by that, and he was 7. Melissa led them out and came back a minute later without them. Her face was different now. Not panicked. Decided. "What really happened at your job?" she asked. Aaron frowned. "I told you." "No, you didn't." "A restructure." "Then why did Brian's wife ask me in September if we were doing okay after everything with the audit?" That landed so hard, even Aaron went still. I watched his shoulders drop a fraction. It was the smallest movement in the world, but it changed the whole room. Melissa saw it too. "Oh my God," she said. "It wasn't an audit," he said. "Not like that." Then what was it? He looked at the table. There were expense issues. I almost laughed because it was such a polished phrase for something ugly. Melissa stepped closer. Expense issues. I was moving things around. Reimbursements, travel, client dinners. I thought I'd catch up before anybody noticed. You stole? No, he snapped, then caught himself. Not criminal. They just said I violated policy. Aunt Elaine made a sound like air leaving a tire. How much? Melissa asked. He didn't answer. How much? About $12,000? It wasn't all personal, he said. Some of it was legit, some of it... Look, it got messy. At that point, I think all my anger cleared and something colder took its place. Because suddenly, the whole day made sense. The nonstop phone checking, the exaggerated jokes, the expensive pie, the little digs at me. He wasn't sitting at that table as the winner. He was sitting there as a man trying to stop his own life from being visible. And the person he chose to stand on to do it was me. Mom started crying quietly, like she'd been holding her breath since August and finally couldn't anymore. I told him your father would never have wanted this, she said. I told him. My brother called me a failure at Thanksgiving. Then the truth came out. Thanksgiving dinner was supposed to be peaceful. My brother Aaron sat at the head of the table, talking about his career like he always did. Then, out of nowhere, he looked at me and laughed. You never left town. You never did anything big. Honestly, you're a failure. The room went silent. Before I could respond, Aaron's wife, Melissa, calmly placed an envelope on the table. What about this? She asked. Aaron's face instantly lost color. Inside were financial documents she had discovered. The successful life Aaron bragged about wasn't real. He had lost his job months earlier, buried personal expenses in company accounts, drained savings, and secretly borrowed money from our mother using her home equity line. Mom looked devastated. That money was supposed to be temporary, Aaron said. Melissa shook her head. You lied to me, the kids, and your family. The truth kept getting worse. Aaron admitted he was behind on the mortgage, buried in credit card debt, and had even taken money from his daughter's college fund. That night, Melissa left with the children. Later, I found Aaron sitting alone in Dad's old garage. For the first time in his life, he wasn't acting successful. He looked broken. Why did you humiliate me? I asked. Aaron stared into the darkness. Because every time I come home, I see you. You stayed. You took care of Mom. You lived honestly. And I realized everything I built was based on appearances. It wasn't an excuse, but it was the first honest thing he had said all day. Over the next few months, everything changed. Aaron finally told the full truth. He got a smaller job, sold expensive things, opened the finances to Melissa, and started rebuilding trust one step at a time. The next Thanksgiving was quieter. No bragging, no pretending, just family. Halfway through dinner, Aaron looked around the table and said, I'm grateful this family survived the truth. And I realized something important. Being admired means nothing if it's built on lies. But being honest, dependable, and real will always matter more.